I have a bunch of Elon Musk related updates, as well as some information about the House Republican proposed budget. You have the Senate trying to propose something, the House doing so as well, and it's all making clear the priorities are all wrong and really, honestly, horrific. We'll get into it all in this segment. If you appreciate the show, please do click the subscribe button. But here's the truth, okay? If we really, what is the secret? Not so secret. What is the damning truth about Elon Musk's whole Doge thing here? It's all a fraud. It is all a lie. And I'm going to prove that in this segment through numerous updates, starting with this one. Look at this little note about where money's being allocated in the form of a federal contract for Tesla. And then if you'll take that down, we'll read a little reporting about this. The State Department's procurement forecast, revised as of late December 2024, lists Tesla as the recipient of the largest expected contract, with Marco Rubio's department planning to buy $400 million worth of armored Tesla. Now, do I think there's no use for armored Tesla? Yeah. No. I think you could. I'm not questioning if any of the federal contracts we're talking about here are worthwhile. And yeah, Elon Musk has seen a nice solid increase, as you're going to see year over year recently, in his companies receiving federal contracts, even under Biden. So this isn't about any contract that could be given would be terrible to any of Elon Musk's companies. But instead, where is he starting with the cost cutting, and how likely is it that the grants that go to his companies will be cut? Because he's cutting a lot of federal grants. And let me just say, if it comes down to armored Tesla or penis-shaped rocket to the Mars or something, if you know, you know, or healthcare for people who need it, I'll choose healthcare. Truly. And it's proof of the lie, which is the underlying truth here that we need to point out, which is that Elon Musk doesn't actually have an interest in doing the thing that the whole Doge, the whole reason he bought his way into Trump's administration, the reason that's all okay is because they're saying they're going to get the deficit under control. But we have proof that that's not the case. Quickly before getting into that, here's Raw Story reporting on a little note as to how thoughtful these folks are. Coders this week exposed serious security issues with Elon Musk's official Department of Government Efficiency website, and now Huffington Post reports that the website has published classified data. Oopsie. Whoopsie. Eeky. Weeky. According to the reports, the Doge website has posted information about the size and staff of a U.S. intelligence agency on its new website, which the publication says is raising questions about just how much access to classified information Musk and his Doge team have. And they're publishing it purposefully or accidentally for everyone to see. Whose information is revealed? Who did they get permission from to release classified information? But as we move forward from that, remember that all of the dishonest portrayal of this is going to get, our deficit under control. We're going to finally deal with debt. We're going to own the efficiency. We're not going to hurt your life. All of this is even enabled. What we're about to talk about is enabled by the fact that Elon Musk, for far less than he bought access to Twitter, for example, purchased a seat at the table in a way that really we've never seen before in American history.
Yeah, I don't recall Donald Trump saying, by the way, when I'm president, I'm going to use my magic marker to sign executive orders about Gulf of America. Well, that guy is going to award himself contracts. $400 million he's about to get from the State Department. A new SpaceX contract. He himself has not lost a dime in this money-saving reorganization that they're doing in these. He's in fact making money.
Well, his personal wealth has rocketed upwards since the election.
Who voted for that?
He did very well out of the election. I mean, this is a guy who I think you and I both mocked him. Many people mocked him for buying Twitter for, what was it, 40 billion, or overpriced Twitter. He bought Twitter for 40 billion. He bought the United States government for 200 million. Like, that is a good deal for Elon Musk. Yeah. And he didn't just buy the government. You know, Miriam Adelson gave $100 million, this right-wing pro-Israel donor. She's getting, Middle East policy out of it. Or other people donate and get X or Y policy. He got the whole thing.
Yeah.
He got the government and he got to run it. I can't think of a time in modern American history where we've had donors before. We've had a Gilded Age before.
Yep.
We've had a lot of... We've never had a guy who gives the money and then goes... No, you're not just going to get the policies you want. You run the thing while I play golf and use my magic marker. And he is running the thing. He's going around and, as you said, you reported a death in Thailand. USAID absolutely destroyed. No one voted for that. I don't remember that being mentioned. I watched a lot of Trump rallies on the campaign trail. I don't remember him saying, I'm going to shut down USAID without any congressional approval, cut off aid to children who need it. This guy has made, I think SpaceX has made $22 billion over the last couple of decades in government contracts. $15 billion from NASA, Joy. And Doge is now arriving at NASA and they're offering the same thing, buyouts. Do you want to quit? Are they going to look at the NASA contracts to SpaceX? Well, is Elon Musk going to adjudicate? Is he going to sit on both sides of the table?
Yes.
And represent NASA and SpaceX, Doge/NASA? It's insane. If I pitched this as a movie storyline, you would say that's just unrealistic for the baddie to have that much power in this movie.
Did he refer to him as a baddie? Is that wait? Yeah. Let me watch that last part. Medi?
NASA contracts to SpaceX? Well, is Elon Musk going to adjudicate? Is he going to sit on both sides of the table?
Yes.
And represent NASA and SpaceX, Doge/NASA? It's insane. If I pitched this as a movie storyline, you would say that's just unrealistic for the baddie to have that much power in this movie.
I think he said baddie. That is really funny. I've called Elon Musk a lot of things. A lot of things. She a baddie is not one of them. Elon Musk is a baddie. Trump's baddie. No. But what he's pointing out there is really what Elon Musk desperately doesn't want people, MAGA, Americans at large, to come to terms with, which is that this is a deeply self-serving endeavor. And he's been able to convince people, hoodwink people, into believing, no, I have all the wealth I'd ever need. I am doing this for you. I'm doing this because I care. I'm a warrior for the cause. I'm going to fight the deep state. USAID, let's have a bunch of food. $500 million of food go to waste because we didn't plan for this cutoff of funds, but we just told everyone to stop working. And so people are going to starve. There was a story of someone dying because of the stop work order. But that's because it's fighting the deep state. Something, condoms in Gaza, something, trans opera. We're fighting the deep state. Now Trump's saying maybe USAID stole the election from him. Well, I guess that's the type of thing you say when you're literally taking food out of the mouths of starving children. You got to go crazier and crazier with your justification. But what we have to make sure people do understand is that this is about Elon Musk serving Elon Musk and people like him. And no, I don't fall for the defense that rich, powerful people don't want to become more rich and powerful, because that's kind of the story of mankind, is that indeed they do. So yeah, he does have all the money he'd ever need and he wants more. Or he has an ideological approach that says it really would be better if we exacerbated income inequality. How do I know that he's on board with that? Well, while he's cutting crucial funds to programs and not going after the billions of dollars that companies like his get, but instead saying, let's start with the food assistance. Let's start with the HIV treatment. Then maybe one day we'll get to the billions that SpaceX get. And again, I like investing in innovation. I see the pushing forward of our collective consciousness that comes of private companies doing stuff. Yes, do stuff. But that's not their argument. Their argument is cut. Shouldn't we start with the fancy rocket and end with the healthcare? No, other way around for them. American Progress reports Budget Committee Republicans are moving to take away food and healthcare from Americans. I know you've heard it so many times. Oh, it's not. Blah, blah, blah. Surely it's not actually happening. Well, let's dive into it earlier today. Both the House and Senate Budget Committees took their first step toward passing a partisan reconciliation bill. The Senate Budget Committee marked up Chairman Lindsey Graham's budget resolution, and the House Budget Committee Republicans released the text of their budget resolution, which is scheduled to mark up tomorrow. Over the last few months, Republican leaders have publicly indicated their intent to use budget reconciliation to cut health care via the Medicaid program. We'll look at the numbers in a second. There's still a lot in the air, but it's important that we don't allow for the gaslighting. Luke, stop using that word. It's the best one, though, for this situation. They look at us in the eyes and they go, you're insane. Why do you keep saying, you're such a liar for saying we're going to cut Medicaid? As their hand over here is writing the bill to do so. Medicaid program reduce, let's read here, indicate their intent to use the budget Medicaid program and reduce access to food assistance via the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. The budget resolution that passed out of the Senate Budget Committee today and the budget resolution introduced by House Republicans today began that process by instructing relevant committees, the Senate Finance Committee, House Energy and Commerce Committee, as well as both the House and Senate Agriculture Committees, to reduce the deficit. In other words, they were told to cut programs in their jurisdiction. So what does that mean? Well, Healthcare Dive says GOP calls for $1.5 trillion in cuts, much of which could come from healthcare. And this is what they'll desperately try to get away with. No, we're just going to cut this out of that. We're just going to reduce spending here, but I promise that won't mean anything to you. Well, it's a statistical, numerical impossibility. House Republicans unveiled a budget resolution on Wednesday that asks the Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees Medicare and Medicaid, to find $880 billion in savings. The Trump administration has said it won't cut Medicare, so the brunt of cuts would likely be in the safety net Medicaid program, which provides health care insurance to almost 80 million low-income Americans. And in analyzing the cuts they're saying from the departments they want to see, again, there's only one way they could get to that figure. And that's cuts to people's health care. That's cuts to Medicaid. And if they really are saying they're not going to touch Medicare, then you're talking about ripping away from low-income Americans Medicaid coverage and benefits. And then with SNAP, probably adding a bunch of obstacles to get it is usually how they end up finding those savings. We've talked about the specifics of the inefficacy and danger of such proposals with SNAP particularly. But remember, all of this is going hand in hand with tax changes or extensions, including the 2017 tax cut bill that Trump signed. That looks like this. I'll keep throwing it up as many times possible to describe for our podcast listeners. The very, very tip-top wealthiest are getting all the benefits. Everyone else is losing or winning a little bit so they can justify the big wins for the wealthiest. Elon Musk loves this. He's a part of pushing forward this idea that we desperately need to find X, Y, Z number in cuts out of the budget. And when you run those numbers, I say it again, the only way you could get to such massive cuts in the figure they're putting forward is cuts to the very programs that many of them have lied and said they're not going after. Some Republicans lately have been going, yeah, we're gonna change Medicaid. But all of that can't possibly be because they want to reduce the deficit. It's impossible for that to be the case because it's going hand in hand with a explosion of the deficit or a collapse of government revenue because of the tax changes. So we come back to it often, but we have to make sure this is the message and people get it. They're exchanging things like USAID. They're exchanging Medicaid benefits if they get this signed into law. They're exchanging cuts to NIH, investments in medical research, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You add up all the savings, quote unquote, that Elon is getting, those get trumped, pardon the term, I should say. They get trumped, they get smushed, they get destroyed comparatively by the trillions of dollars of tax cuts. So it's nothing. Unless they truly do balance it out, spending to offset the revenue decrease, which would mean devastation in the lives of so many Americans. So what's the trade-off? All of those benefits, necessary things for Americans, being traded off with tax cuts for wealthy folks, which even with that trade-off and the numbers that have been run, still would increase the deficit. If that's a priority list you resonate with, yes, then stop watching this show. Then you cray. Even Stephen K. Bannon, seems to be a little worried that this could cause a backlash from MAGA.
The math, and I mean hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts, hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts. And stop whining about entitlements. Get into that discretionary spending. Get into the Pentagon. Get into Medicaid. Medicaid, you got to be careful because a lot of MAGA's on Medicaid. I'm telling you, if you don't think so, you are dead wrong. Medicaid's going to be a complicated one. Just can't take a Medex to it, although I would love to.
Did you hear what he said? You did technically, but you probably didn't get what he said because he said a bunch of stuff that canceled out. He said, don't go after entitlements, but go after an entitlement. But then he says, go after Medicaid, but don't too much because MAGA people are on it. But I wish that we could. What are you saying? But apparently, at least he brings up that, yeah, this isn't a political issue. People's basic benefits are at stake here. And I notice that it's not at all starting with the big fancy grants for big companies. That's not where Elon's starting. But he is starting with basic funds that give people necessities. This happening as Musk settles lawsuit with Trump for $10 million. So just to remind Trump of how much he loves that Trump gives him full control of the government, he's having X settle a lawsuit with Trump for $10 million relating to Trump, I guess, being banned or something, some treatment that wasn't fair, which is not at all something that you should give money to someone for suing you over because you have the power as a private company to regulate your own platform. Another example of the trade-off that they're willing to give for big tax cuts for wealthy people is getting rid of the Department of Education.
Department of Education to be closed.
Oh, I'd like it to be closed immediately. Look, the Department of Education's a big con job. We're ranked, so they rank the top 40 countries in the world.
And he's about to lie. That's not. We actually are ranked pretty well, depending on the ranking you look at. One had us at number 1, but you have different rankings. And listen to him. Think about that. Him saying con job. Immediately shut down the Department of Education because it's a con job. Well, number 1, he has only one set of talking points. So with USAID, they can't actually find the fraud that they were saying they're going to find. So they just start saying lies about it. It was just a big con. Now this, it was just a big con. Think of this. You have people, right? Human people. And they want to spend our money on kids' education. Get that. It's con job. Now, obviously, he would say, no, it's the states just shouldn't handle it themselves. Yeah, well, if that's what you want, red states are going to suffer a lot because they're the ones getting most of the support from the Department of Education. What is the Department of Education doing mostly? It's saying, where are the gaps? Where should people be and where are they now? We'll give less support to states that are already kind of doing all right, and we'll go try to help give money to states that they're just not even achieving the bare minimum. Trying to level the playing field, mostly lifting up red states to be a little bit more close to blue states. They still can't do it, but that's the effort because they're the ones that struggle the most. And Trump wants to take that away, which would just exacerbate the difference between some states that are doing better and some states that are struggling more. Share your thoughts in the comments.